Welcome to part 2 of the Sales and Marketing Alignment podcast with special guest Diarmuid Walsh from HubSpot.
And what I was saying to Mark earlier today as well, like sometimes the fastest way to speed up a sales process is actually to slow it down. And what I mean by that is to push back. So if you feel that you're not getting the information that you need to move forward, you need to be clear with the prospect and say, listen, I need to understand, like for example, and you might have an example where a prospect doesn't at this stage want to share with you revenue projections or what their current revenue is. They feel that, no, I don't want to do that. How can we ultimately help if we don't really understand where they want to get to in terms of revenue? We need to understand what the revenue is today and where they need to go to. And you need to then, if they're not willing to share that information, you need to explain, first of all, why you want that information, why you need that information. And if they're still not willing to share, it's a case of, listen guys, there's no point moving forward until you are willing to share that information. And that's a case of like pushing back, slowing the sales cycle down, and making them realise we're here to help, but you need to share with us that information.
Going back to the car dealership analogy, it's asking that dealer for, come on, what's your best price? And you know you can afford 200 a month. They go, no, it needs to be 120. And they're like, no, what can you really afford? 120. And he's like, you can afford more than that. Forget it. Don't matter, we're never going to meet your price. When really, if he'd have just gone 180, he'd have gone, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it is. It's a really interesting shift in sales, isn't it? And how marketing adapts and get into that. I think it's really worth a marketer's time, and we do this a lot as an agency, getting in the room with sales and understanding how that funnel looks, how many leads they need to ultimately do enough pitches, to ultimately win enough customers, to ultimately hit their revenue goal. And the amount of companies that don't have that funnel is quite amazing.
So what percentage of companies that you've dealt with have that information?
I've not been to one yet that had it, and we've been doing this for
5 years.
5 years plus. I've honestly never been, so
They could have a sales team bigger than our whole company. Still don't have that.
No.
We've seen.
Oh God!
Yeah, all salespeople should know what their metrics are, because for a salesperson to be successful, a really good salesperson will have a plan made out at the start of the year in terms of what their annual goal is, that are broken down in terms of quarter. They'll then be able to reverse engineer, assuming they have a very structured sales process, so if I bring on board one new client per month, I need to have this 2 proposals, then I need to have 5 or 6 goal setting calls, then I need to have 15 discovery calls, then I need to have 30 connect calls, then I need to have maybe 90 leads, and then I need to have an understanding of where those leads are coming from.
And that's where, sorry to hop in before you finish, that's why I think the value is for marketers, because once you know that lead number, you can take that funnel further back. So you can go, right, these guys need 100 leads a month. That means I need to give them 150 contacts, because I know half of them will be wrong fit, other side of the world, using Gmail, emails, addresses, etc. They won't be the right fit for us, so we've got to do 150 contacts. If we need 150 contacts and our website closes at 3%, I don't know the maths by the way to work that back. Go on. 5,000. That is bullshit. You know that you need 5,000 visitors a month to ultimately fill that funnel, and that's why I was saying that I think that's where it's worth you as a marketer sitting in that room, doing it with sales, writing that funnel out, because ultimately it affects your metrics. Then what you can do is even better as a smart marketer is take, right, those are the metrics we need. Ultimately we know the revenue goal, and you can start to understand what all of those things mean in revenue. So you know a contact's worth 20 quid, you know a lead's worth 40 quid, you know a connect call's worth 50 quid, etc. And you can work all that out. So when you're doing Facebook ads, PPC ads, you can figure out if your cost per acquisition of a contact is higher or lower than what you need to make money at it at the end of the day.
That relies on the partnership angle again though, doesn't it? Because they need to, you don't want some client's sales team being like, oh yeah, we closed 90% of all leads you give us.
That's my very favourite answer to that question. What's your close rate? Give me the leads, I'll close them all. How many salespeople say that? And I say, look, if I use your logic and I do this funnel and your close rate's 100%.
If we give you a lead, would you close it? What's your close rate?
I think as well, because so many companies don't have that insight into their data, this is why, you know, you as an agency are in a really good opportunity, because it's beginning to have those conversations with business owners, with marketing directors, with sales directors, getting them to think, and guaranteed they've all wanted to do it.
Yeah.
They've all maybe tried to do it, and they've just, you know, business has gotten in the way, day-to-day life has gotten in the way, they don't have the technology set up.
Exactly.
So the great thing is that you can begin to implement the inbound methodology. It will take time, but then you can always review it every 3 months, 6 months, and essentially every quarter, and review, but constantly understanding what the breakdown is in terms of those actual metrics.
Because, like you said, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. If you're not hitting those funnel numbers, you can quickly look back and see where you're going wrong. So it's like, we're getting 5,000 visitors, but we're not getting 150 contacts. We've got a conversion issue.
Yeah.
We're getting 150 contacts, but they're not turning into 100 leads. You've got an issue with quality of leads coming into your site. And by having all those metrics, and similarly in sales, like we're getting to the end and I haven't closed enough out. I haven't disqualified enough early enough, so I'm pitching unnecessarily. By having all of those metrics in place, when something goes wrong, you're not all just sat around the table saying, hey guys, where have we gone wrong? You sat around and we can say, right, it's this phase where we're going wrong, let's all work together and fix in that phase.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I suppose the great thing about it is there's nowhere to hide.
No.
And because there's nowhere to hide...
The people don't like that.
Well, some people don't like it, but the great thing about it is, you know, the people who generally are really good at their job do like it.
Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, it's the people who are really good at their job that you want to keep happy, because you want to be giving those the credit as opposed to somebody who isn't good at their job and getting all the credit.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere to hide. You know, using a technology like HubSpot, everything is, it's clear as day. It's completely transparent, and ultimately, not only can you see the problems in terms of the funnel, but you can also quickly identify, okay, well, we're generating 500 leads per month. We have 5 salespeople. There's 100 being rotated to each different person. The buyer personas typically are the same. You know, we can quickly identify which salespeople are typically more skilled than others.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, it can identify why are they not closing as much as maybe their peers. Is there a breakdown in relation to their sales process? Do they need to practice and hone in a particular skill, whether it be around the discovery call or the connect call or whatever it may be?
And we were talking about this on the car on the way down. By having those figures, you can also scale. So if you know you're getting 500 leads, 100 leads a salesperson, when you start getting to 650, you might think, right, we need another salesperson, and you can start scaling your business that way based on metrics.
Essentially, HubSpot, we very much are our own best case study.
Yeah.
We grow our business through inbound marketing. I'm not sure of the exact numbers. I'm going to take a guess here, but I could be wrong. I think it's around 50,000 plus leads per month that we're generating as a business, and that's growing all the time. But the company knows what the conversion rate is in terms of those number of leads. It knows how many new customers we would expect to have at the end of each month, at the end of each quarter. So it knows that we need to ultimately invest in certain areas of the business to continue that level of growth. So it's a really proven model that works.
What is that conversion rate? Will you tell us? Do you know?
Don't know.
No idea.
Can't
disclose that.
I mean, HubSpot as a company, we're growing at 50% every year.
That's great.
You know, we went public, I think it's October 2014, at a valuation of around $800 million. We're about $2.5 billion today valuation.
Wait a second.
So it's
a couple of pence behind.
But the interesting thing, you know, is the company is hoping to achieve $1 billion in annual revenue by 2020. And the reason it's confident it can say that
because of this reason,
it's because they have a very proven methodology in place for marketing and sales.
That build more trust for investors and more
Yeah.
money in to do things.
I mean, one of their big problems will be is that maintaining that level of growth, you have to hire an awful lot more people every year.
Skilled people,
So, but I think that's probably been their biggest challenge as opposed to actually where are they generating leads, because as we all know, with inbound marketing, it takes time to get found, but once you build that authority, once you have a really kind of strong publishing network, whether it be through an agency or your own in-house team, you can begin to get found for the relevant long-tail keywords that you want to get found for, and just continue to generate more and better quality leads all the time.
And the analogy I use there is with inbound, you you're buying. So if you look at it like property, you're buying your house, you're going to build for the future, you're going to own that at the end of it. Whereas when you rely on 100% on PPC or advertising you're renting, and as soon as you stop putting those pounds in, it's gone. Your whole streams are gone. That's the beauty of inbound. Yes, it does take a lot longer.
Can you make that up?
I think so.
No,
I'm
it's
going
true.
to
try to.
I'm going to copyright that. Yeah, that's the analogy I use when I talk to customers.
Yeah, if you turn your PPC off and it stops, it's not sustainable. Where inbound is almost like SEO. It's just
It's an organic process.
I mean, like the piece of content that HubSpot generates its most leads from. Now the problem with this is that nobody knows what piece of content is really going to do that until you actually publish it.
Yeah, we found that. Definitely.
But the piece of content was it's targeted towards our marketing Mary, and the marketing Mary persona will be female marketeer, busy person, mid-level in organisation, probably about 50 or so employees. Very busy job, but works in marketing, but also tasked with doing other activities, chores for the business. And one of those would be writing a press release. Can you write a press release? So what HubSpot identified this, and they created a template of how do you write a press release. If you type into Google, how do you write a press release, in the top 3 or 4 organic search results, you will see the HubSpot blog, how do you write a press release. And that, I don't know how many thousands of leads that have generated, but it's been a huge quantity of leads. And just as you said there, with inbound marketing, you're creating content that you can get found for essentially forevermore.
Yeah.
You're never going to turn that tap off. But I would say this, it does take time, and businesses ultimately need, a lot of the time when they engage agencies, they need leads now because they're potentially struggling to hit a particular goal. Sometimes PPC can be a really good way to work, to boost that essentially for the first 3 or 4 months. And then after 3 or 4 months, hopefully that inbound machine is kind of cranking for you, getting found for that particular content, and then begin to turn it off.
Like what Andrew said on, I think it was on the first podcast, when you said about using PPC as well, not just for getting in some quick wins, but also to learn from for inbound campaigns.
It's a quick way of getting data and stuff. For strategy side. It's good for that.
Yeah, we've touched on that. We're also paid social ads as well. We touched on that in the last podcast.
No, great quick win, aren't they, to bridge that gap?
Yeah, for sure. But Facebook, I mean, they say, I've heard a lot of expert marketeers talk about the power of Facebook, that so many organisations aren't using it yet. So potentially might be a company to invest in, I think, because it looks like their cost of their advertising will probably greatly increase over the next 2 or 3 years.
Massively. It'll be where Google AdWords is now, own it in a year. So this is the values there now. We've talked about this pretty much on every single podcast so far.
And it's working great for us.
So
Definitely. It's for us and our clients, but this is why we do the podcast, though, to share the wealth. Just let's talk about resistance then. So you've got sales, you've got marketing, old school, you've got guys who've been in sales for 40 years and on a separate camp. I don't want anything to do with them guys. And suddenly we're trying to bring these together. We're getting resistance, and I'm sure the listeners are as well. Have you got any tips and advice how we can get these guys on board or work together?
How marketers approach sales, because it is weird. It's a weird situation. We've talked about this recently. You're going in as a 30-year-old marketer telling a 55-year-old sales director how to do sales, and that's obviously not how we approach it. And I'm sure Dimmock's going to say don't approach it that way. But it's quite interesting as a marketer how you go to sales and say you need to change because of these things.
Okay, I mean, I think I wouldn't necessarily use the term you need to change.
Yeah.
I would more try and approach it from a workshop standpoint and base it around education and base it around sharing case studies and actual numbers and potentially getting those legacy sales directors to engage with sales directors who are their peers, who have been in the business a long time, and having that kind of reference conversation, or potentially recording like what we're doing now, or having a podcast with sales directors who may have engaged this new process that are seeing real value, record it and then send it out to these people. But it is, I think the best way to educate somebody, in most cases legacy people, is typically to get them talking to other legacy people who have actually changed and seen value.
A tactic we've had recently is, rather than going to the top and trying to get them to drill it down, pick a sales exec, use them if they're up for it, show them how you can manipulate their numbers, get their numbers up, and then when all of a sudden this sales exec starts closing a lot more than the rest of the team, that's when people start to take notice. And that's a quick in, because normally you're talking to a guy of a similar age, he's up for it because he's new and he just wants to get results and impress his boss. And we found in a few cases where you do get resistance at the top, go in at the bottom, make him a superhero, everyone else will want what he has.
Yeah.
Because numbers talk, like you said earlier.
Yeah, they do, particularly in no more out of the way than sales as well. That's
education is absolutely key. It's, you know, what we always say when you're talking, because inbound is a relatively new concept, and because change, you know, it's changing, everything is changing so fast, you need to always be educating both yourself and your clients. And I think that's probably one of the big challenges today and into the future, is keeping on top of what is actually changing, because everything is changing so fast.
I think it's a big pat on the back for anyone who's a marketer that's doing inbound, who's watching this, who's involved, because you're one of the, I don't know what the saturation point of inbound is in the UK, but you're one of the 3 to 5% who are in it, who are doing it. Other people haven't even started this process, so I think it's a big pat on the back that you're in it, you're trying to learn it, you're doing it, because it's still so young, isn't it?
Yeah, but the great thing about inbound as well, you know, the 4 key pillars are attract, so driving the correct audience to your website, convert, you know, knowing who they are, getting them to convert on your website, downloading content so we can find out who their first name, their last name, their email address is, and then beginning to market to them, and then ultimately delighting them when they become a customer, becoming thought leader. So that's the methodology. Then you need to actually, well, what challenges is it actually solving? It's ultimately solving companies that have pain points around, there's nobody coming to my traffic, or there's traffic coming to our website, but we don't know who's actually coming to our website. Or there's people converting on our website, but it's entirely the wrong type of lead. Or you could have the business owner who is getting fed up with their marketing director who's constantly looking to increase budget in their marketing spend, and typically they might be spending 3 to 5% of annual revenue. And the business owner's tearing his hair out, you know, he or she is saying, show me the value, like show me the proof that this is working. And with marketing, it's very difficult in many cases to prove out that exact ROI. But the beauty about inbound marketing is that, and particularly using HubSpot to deliver inbound marketing, is that you can prove out that ROI right down to the very last penny that they spend. So that's, you know, they're the problems, and the question is, how many companies have those problems? The reality is, the vast majority of companies out there have the problems. The question is, do they want to address those problems today or ever? But ultimately, you know, that's your job as an agency, is to try and find those companies, deliver value. But the question is, which companies actually want to address it today? But the reality is, the vast majority will have those problems.
We wrote a blog recently that said, if you want to become the superhero in your company and you want to be the marketing person that really stands out, you've got to ultimately solve one of the problems the business has, which are all the parts of the inbound methodology. I've either not got enough traffic, I've not got enough leads, I've not got the right leads, or I've not got enough of the right leads. And if you solve one of those 4 problems that pretty much every business has, that's where you excel in your role. That's how you get a promotion as an in-house marketer. That's when we're going out talking to prospects. That's how we talk about it, isn't it?
I agree, Ricky, and just to help the viewers out, everything we spoke about regarding sales and marketing funnel, we've actually built some editable templates. We spent a lot of time doing these. We're going to put them in the show notes, and you guys can download them free of charge. Am I alright?
Yeah,
to the viewers? Is that okay?
Spike and deploy, as you say.
So they're templates for what, sorry?
For the sales and marketing funnel, I mean, Ricky,
so it's literally what we go through, which is figure out your number of customers and work that back, leads, pitches, etc., right the way to visitors. If you put the percentages in on the side, you can work out the right hand side. And we get a lot of people to...
So it says sales populates?
Yeah, exactly. Put the percentages in, you can pop it.
It's not worth checking out.
So we'll add them in the show notes. Diarmuid, really enjoyed this podcast today, probably my favourite one, and it's made me realise that we probably need to get some more guests in.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
been great. So thank you very much. Super
Thanks
grateful.
for having me.
I think we're going to go out tonight for some food, some more beers. So,
Yes.
all good.
They went down very quickly, didn't they?
We'll wrap up. So again, thank you for watching. Any feedback, please put in the comments. Please share.
Yeah.
We're really valuable. And let's leave it at that. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Cheers.
Cheers, James.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.